Today I'm working with an extremely simple tool. It's a doweling plate from Lie-Nielsen. So what is a doweling plate? Simply a hunk of steel with very particular size holes drilled in it used to make wooden dowels. This one from Lie-Nielsen is a hardened piece of steel with exact sizes drilled all the way down it. And you take a piece of wood that's slightly oversized and you bang it through these holes, and that makes a perfectly round dowel. On the back side of the holes, they are slightly bigger to allow the wood to come through more easily. And it's just here on the surface that you have the cutting action here. It's super flat here, and that 90-degree corner right there on the holes creates a cutting action just like other cutting tools, and slices away the wood and makes a perfectly round dowel. The Lie-Nielsen Dowel Plate comes in both an imperial, which is inches, and a metric version. And you can also order an optional leather carrying case, which is some classy storage for your dowel plate. You can use the Lie-Nielsen doweling plate just as it arrives at your shop. It's already sharp. You can mount it over a dog hole in your bench or a couple blocks of wood and just start banging stock through it. I went ahead and made a little mounting block for my plate. And the way I did that was simply put a groove in the top. I had a dado stack, just a couple of passes at the correct depth for the doweling plate. And then I took it to my drill press and used a Forstner bit, just drilled out all across the center there. A couple of countersunk holes, and go ahead and mount it. And this gives me a little bit better surface for clamping to my bench or moving around or just keeping track of. I start with a piece of very straight grained wood and cut it in both dimensions to end up with a square blank, slightly oversized than the final dowel. Take it over the chop saw and cut it down to length. Now I'm going to actually turn this to get rid of the corners, and so I'm going to mark the sides to gauge my progress in the lathe. Chuck it up in the lathe and quickly turn off the corners, keeping it oversized and pretty round. Then I'll go ahead and chisel down the end to start it in the doweling plate. So here I have my quickly turned dowel. Took me all of about 5 minutes. That includes marking this with some pen, chucking it up into the lathe, and getting rid of all the corners. I found this to be one of the faster methods for quickly banging out slightly longer dowels and getting them roughly to size extremely quickly, and now getting ready to pound them through the dowel plate. So I put this over a hole in my bench, and I'll put it here. I've whittled the end with a chisel to just quickly shave it. If it's a small enough piece, you can use a pencil sharpener or stuff to get it started. You just want it to get it right in there. And I'm using a nylon mallet here so I don't hurt the metal when I get all the way down to the end. So there are my dowels, quickly turned, banged through the doweling plate, perfectly sized at 1/2 inch for my project. Now what's cool is obviously you can use any wood of your choosing. I've got some straight grained oak that I use because this is the same wood that I've used throughout my project, and I wanted to make pegs from the exact same stick of lumber. And that's exactly why a doweling plate's awesome, making your own dowels. And you can choose any kind of wood from your shop to use in your project. Of course, you want to try to get as straight grain as possible to make your dowels very strong. Now you saw that I turned my dowel stock from a roughly square blank to get it going through my dowel plate. The other thing you can do to get very straight grain is to rive your wood, which follows the grain perfectly. And so what I've done is started with some straight grain and cut it roughly oversized to a 1/2 inch. And now what I'm going to do is take something sharp like a chisel and go ahead and again put it oversized and start banging it. And there where it splits is going to be right along the grain. I could pull that apart, and if my stock was longer here, I could do multiple splits, and they would just keep running right along the grain, and that gives you very straight grain pieces to start through your doweling plate. Now, when you're making dowels through a doweling plate, the less material you have to remove, the better finish you'll have on your dowel and the straighter that dowel will be. If you can have holes spaced every 32nd or even 64th of an inch, you can go progressively smaller holes and just remove that 32nd or 64th of an inch, leaving a really nice surface. Unfortunately, the Lie-Nielsen dowel plate, especially here at the larger holes, are spaced every 1/8 of an inch. I was doing 1/2 inch dowels, and I found that I couldn't really go from the 5/8 to the 1/2. I had to whittle or turn it closer to that 1/2 in order to bang it through and be left with a very round dowel. So that's the one downside I found about this doweling plate, is that these holes are spaced pretty far apart, so I had to whittle or turn my dowel closer to that hole and then just bang it through one time, rather than going progressively smaller and smaller holes. Here down at the other end, you have space every 1/16th of an inch. You can definitely go from 5/16 to 1/4 and be left with a pretty nice dowel. But here at the top, that 1/8 of an inch was really too big. But the great thing about the Lie-Nielsen dowel plate is it arrived in my shop. 15 minutes later, I had it in this block, and 15 minutes later, I had dowel stock that matched my project, and I was moving on. So if you are looking to make dowels out of your own stock to match your project, the Lie-Nielsen dowel plate is definitely worth a look.